Now, in the latest, the Supreme Court has dismissed the petition that was challenging the Jammu and Kashmir delimitation. Remember, the delimitation panel redrew the constituencies in Jammu and Kashmir. 90 assembly seats and 5 Lok Sabha seats were in fact redrawn in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, the opposition had been saying that this delimitation exercise actually benefits the BJP, and there was a petition that was challenging the delimitation in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, the Supreme Court has dismissed that petition. The delimitation panel, of course, redrew the constituencies in Jammu and Kashmir, and the Supreme Court in the latest has dismissed that petition challenging the delimitation in Jammu and Kashmir. My colleague Sunil Prabhu now joining us for more details on this. Sunil, this is an extremely important development. Tell us what really happened in the court. What were the top arguments?
Well, today was the day for not arguments but delivering the judgment, and Justice Oka delivered the judgment. There was a bench of Justice Krishna Kaul as well as Justice Oka, and he was reading out saying that they have dismissed the petition, they find it valid. They've not gone into the constitutional propriety of Article 370, which is being going to be put up before a constitution bench. But having said that, the focus clearly that the redrawing as done by the Election Commission is valid, and they have dismissed that petition. So the stage is set for elections in Jammu and Kashmir now, and it will be dependent on the Election Commission once they redraw the electoral rolls to have an election which is long awaited, the first election after the Article 370 in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir.
Right, Sunil, as you said that the stage is set for the elections in Jammu and Kashmir, which of course have been delayed for really long now. And the Jammu and Kashmir opposition parties allege that this delimitation benefits the BJP. So what does this really mean politically for Jammu and Kashmir and also for the people there?
Well, for the people there and for the opposition parties, they had raised a huge point. And, one of the arguments that had been, pointed out while arguing before the Supreme Court was that this exercise should have started only in 2026. They cited the case of Andhra Pradesh, where, as per the AP Reorganization Act, you need to reconstitute the Lok Sabha as well as the assembly boundaries. And the Election Commission there said that we will do it only in 2026. But in the case of Jammu and Kashmir, they have started nevertheless, and even though many opposition parties didn't participate in the redrawing of these boundaries and raise objections, it is now a part of law. So we'll have to wait and see how this plays out on the ground. But constitutionally, technically, the stage is set in terms of redrawing of boundaries, as well as, of course, how they want to go about that entire process once elections get underway, once the Election Commission discusses with security apparatus as well as their own internal exercise, and the electoral rolls are ready for conducting the first election in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir after Article 370 was removed.
Sunil Prabhu, thanks very much for joining us with those details. And we also have Nazir now joining us from Srinagar. And Nazir, as we were just discussing, that with this constitutionally, technically, the stage is set for the elections in Jammu and Kashmir, which of course have been delayed for far too long now. So what would this really mean for the elections that are scheduled to happen in Jammu and Kashmir that have not happened for some time now? And also politically for Jammu and Kashmir, what does this translate into?
Well, number one, delimitation exercise is done and dusted. It was completed in May last year by the delimitation panel. So that exercise is already done. 90 assembly constituencies have been redrawn. There are 5 parliamentary constituencies have also been redrawn. So that exercise is completed. This petition was actually about the validity of formation of the Delimitation Commission by the central government through a notification by the Law Ministry. Remember why Delimitation Commission was formed here? It is part of actually Reorganization Act, which was passed by the Parliament after the J&K state was turned into Union Territory. It was stripped of its statehood, and a Reorganization Act was passed by the Parliament. As part of the Reorganization Act, delimitation is being carried out. So it is part of the act of the parliament. So this delimitation was carried out. So they didn't challenge. The petitioners had not challenged the, this Reorganization Act. So they had challenged the constitution of this delimitation panel. So Supreme Court said since it is an act of parliament, they had not challenged the main, Reorganization Act. So Supreme Court has dismissed this. And since also the whole process is already completed, which has been which was controversial. There was allegations of gerrymandering, and political parties here, opposition parties, have been saying it is being heavily, favoring BJP. BJP has dismissed those allegations. But this case was related to whether the Constitution of Delimitation Commission in Jammu and Kashmir was valid. The petitioners have said that since delimitation has been barred across country till 2026, as Sunil was mentioning, citing the example of Andhra Pradesh. So, but here in this case, there was an Act of Parliament, Reorganization Act, and the delimitation process was born out of that act. And the petitioners had not challenged the Reorganization Act. They had only challenged the delimitation, Constitution of Delimitation process. So on that basis, it has been struck down. The petition has been dismissed. But here it has a political meaning because there are a bunch of petitions before the Supreme Court which have not been heard so far with regard to challenging the revocation of Article 370, stripping Jammu and Kashmir state into 2 union territories. Political parties have been saying it was an assault on the federal structure of the country. So no state, there's no precedence or the law where a state can be downgraded into union territory. There is precedent that the union territory is being upgraded as a state. But on 5th of August 2019, a state was divided into 2 union territories. And then the Reorganization Act was passed. And based on that Reorganization Act, delimitation panel was formed, delimitation commission was formed. And under that delimitation process, 90 seats, assembly seats were redrawn. 5 existing parliamentary seats were also redrawn, though it is a controversial process. But the very basis of the delimitation, commission, which was challenged before the Supreme Court, that has been dismissed by the Supreme Court. Actually, the judgment was passed by the Supreme Court on 2nd of this December last year, and the judgment was reserved. And today, Supreme Court finally pronounced its judgment on challenging delimitation in Jammu and Kashmir.